This is the CMO of Gaia-X, Vasilia Orfanou. This is our newest podcast series. Gaia-X is a newly aspiring, rising European association, and together with you, we can develop a new concept of data infrastructure ecosystem based on the values of openness, transparency, sovereignty, and interoperability. Join us today at Gaia-X and be part of this technological ecosystem. Pierre, since the launch of Gaia-X, you have been one of the most fervent believers of the initiative. You believe in the project, you run the CTO office, and this has entailed a lot of challenges and opportunities that I would like us to take this opportunity to discuss further and engage further our community. Therefore, we thank you for your time and availability to shed a bit of more light on the current progress of the project. Bottom line, first off, I would like to hear a little bit more about you and your background. Tell me a little bit about yourself, Pierre.
So thank you very much for having me. My background, so I'm a software developer at the core of it, and a signal processing engineer. I've started my career in machine learning and video compression.
How did even Gaia-X begin for you? Did you know about the project before? Was it something that you were looking into to be involved? Was it something like completely off the boat that you looked at a specific title and specific position and you said, okay, let me apply for this? How did it all become for you?
It was a very interesting start. I became involved with Gaia-X even before Gaia-X Association was created. So it was in March 2020. And at that time, I was employed as a solution architect at OVH Cloud, a French tier 1 cloud provider. The OVH was involved in prototyping a Gaia-X demo for the presentation in front of the European Commission in June 2020. And they were looking for developers. So the former friend and CTO of OVH Cloud asked me, Pierre, would you be interested to work on writing a prototype for Gaia-X? And my first question was, what is Gaia-X? Then I joined the working groups. I've listened for about a month, and then I made a proposal. Let's create a first Gaia-X catalogs. That's how I got involved with Gaia-X. We wrote with a colleague at Scaleway, the first Gaia-X demonstrator, and presented that in front of the European Commission in early June 2020. And that's how I get my hands dirty with Gaia-X.
From your perspective, though, what was, the first thing that we could say it was of interest to you and you said, okay, I'm doing this? Was it about the challenge? Was it because it provided a solution that you wanted to be involved in? What was it that really inspired you to be part of this project?
The thing that inspired me the most was the aim of enabling SMEs to shine, to foster this network of SMEs service offering for Europe. We have in Europe a very highly fragmented market, and we have some troubles, some difficulty challenges to grow our technical autonomy in Europe. And for me, Gaia-X is really the answer to that. How do we grow more our autonomy level based on European values?
In terms of the current challenges, would you say that Gaia-X is bringing a solution to create a more decentralized environment in the data space ecosystem or the cloud system? What is the main solution that it brings according to your perspective?
It went through several iterations. That's a question which is interesting because 2 years ago, even 1 year ago, we had probably a different answer from the one I'm going to give. The main takeaway on my side for Gaia-X is that Gaia-X tried to create this common digital governance for Europe. It took us years to have the Schengen area, to have Europe, to have the euro fiat currency for all the country in Europe. It will take us a bit of time to have a common digital governance for the usage of digital services in Europe, but we need to have that. Europe should have that if it wants to be competitive and remain competitive. And for me, Gaia-X bring that answer.
If we were to enumerate the main priorities that you have for this year, which would this be?
So we have a long-term plan, and if we reduce that for this year, by the end of this year, we want to demonstrate the added value of this Gaia-X governance that we call and we capture inside the document that we call the Gaia-X Trust Framework. So using this set of rules, how do we enable data exchange at scale? How do we enable service consumption at scale within Europe based on European values? And for that, we need to have some sub-components, sub-features, such as a common vocabulary for identity and access management, a common vocabulary for service description offering.
Pierre, how is this going to be helped or improved through the launch of the lab that we most recently had and we kind of explained in today's webinar?
So the lab is a small group of developers under the CTO office, and the whole functionality, the whole responsibility of the lab is to prototype and validate hypotheses made in the Gaia-X working group. The lab has 3 types of deliverable. Either it's implement a feature in an existing project that's called an accelerator, or it find a missing component that we need to have in order to complete a user scenario that's called a filer. So we create a new open source component, or as an educational purpose, a demo to educate, to showcase how Gaia-X will work.
Okay, and how would we be able to integrate the different tech dive webinars that we are currently doing? So this year we've launched a number of tech dives. We've launched a tech dive on verifiable credentials, on compliance aspects. We are doing one on data exchange services. How is this all connected with the lab? And the particular participation, let's put it this way, of the people that are not necessarily part of Gaia-X at this time. Are we open, in fact, to engage, the technical community from outside Gaia-X?
Yeah, that's a very good question. We are allowing non-member of the association to also participate in Gaia-X implementation. The lab is open for every developer, member or non-member, willing to participate, demonstrate, prototype, validate technically the specification that are being worked on and elaborated by the working group. So we are engaging with the community, and part of the engagement is also to disseminate knowledge, and that's what the deep dive are, the tech deep dive are.
So if we were to connect this from the perspective of a call to action, let's say certain people would be interested to join the Gaia-X community, to join your technical committees, the working groups, which would be, let's say, the 1, 2, 3 priorities that you would tell them, okay, join Gaia-X from a technical perspective because of, what could we say to them?
Tough question. There is so many open challenges right now. The one really for, if I need again to focus and to reduce the scope to what we want to achieve for 2022, that will be data exchange. And I will even be more precise than that. In the data exchange, you need to have a common vocabulary for identity, access control, and we cannot wipe everything that exists right now. So how do we bridge the common existing identity federation based, for example, on OpenID Connect with decentralized identifiers such as DID and the entire self-sovereign identity paradigm? So that's a very important part of the jigsaw, and this bridge between identity and access management, common vocabulary to have this common governance, so that in one ecosystem A, knowing that you have access to block storage means the same thing in another ecosystem. The second challenge or point of interest will be on the trust framework. The trust framework is the common set of rules that bind technical and legal expertise. That's something unique that I haven't seen before. It's how do we make this bridge between the legal enforcement of usage control access right with a technical way to measure and to compare service offering and participant attributes. So, and why we are working on that? So we can scale, we can accelerate the transformation, the digital transformation for Europe. We can do that only if we manage to automate. And automate goes through finding a way to measure, to compare attributes. And we need to find a legal framework for that. We cannot just put any information. So the trust framework document is a very interesting one and a very challenging one on the technical part and the legal part also.
Thank you very much, Pierre. This has been a series, the CTO series of our podcasts. We believe that we will have the chance to speak with Pierre Gronlier for the next series as well. Pierre, it was a pleasure having the opportunity to discuss with you and having the chance of our discussion. And I hope that you will have the chance of your time and availability for the next series.
Thank you very much. Of course, yes, it will be my pleasure.